Merry Christmas, Daz enthusiasts, and happy holidays to everyone out there. This is Not From This World, and I want to welcome you to my tutorial series. Now, for the holiday season, I thought I would open up an older scene that I had that I've posted pictures from on other sites and show you how we can take Hexagon and put our character's hair underneath their hat. So I've got Milica here. She's in red, and her friend Nulpy, another Genesis 8 character. And if you notice, I put some Santa hats on them, but their hair is poking through the Santa hat. So I'm going to show you how we can create a morph that's going to move their hair underneath this hat so that we can pose them in different positions and not worry about all that hair poke through. So the first thing I'm going to do is we are going to select Milica here, and I am going to put her into Hexagon. So I'm going to go File, Send to Hexagon. We'll wait a minute for her to load up, get her clothing on and that kind of thing, and then we can create our morph. All right, so here she is. As always, I'm just going to hit Alt and the right button to kind of click and drag. And then I'm going to just use my scrolling wheel on my mouse to get close. We want to kind of zoom in. Alt left mouse button, I can rotate. So we're going to get her kind of in a position where we can look at her a little bit easier. And you're going to see we've got a lot of hair poke through. Now, unfortunately, hair is not the easiest thing to pose. There's no simple way to just do this as far as I can tell. So we're going to have to take some time and move the hair underneath her stocking cap. So I'm going to select the hair. This hair is called the Ladina hair for Genesis 8. So I'm going to select it in the scene, and you can see it's made up of a bunch of strands. And most of us know that hair is just made of these strands, these polygons that are lined up in rows. The good hair is all like this. I think this is pretty good hair quality. And I think actually Nulpy has better hair quality than this hair. But at any rate, what we're going to have to do is drag individual hair strands underneath her hat. And so this does just take a little bit of time. There's no easy fix to this. I'm going to hit soft selection here just to show you this. Let's go to the face selection. And, you know, if this was a perfect world, it'd be nice if we could make a loop around her head, kind of like a halo, and then just shrink the hair. But we can't do that because this hair, as you look here, it's just in strands. So if I hit like my loop button and then try and select some things, you're going to see that it's just selecting those strands, those blue strands. So what we have to do is just take our translate manipulator arrow, and I would make sure that you have this selected as a selection rather than world. And then we're just going to kind of zoom in here, and I'm going to just grab some of these hairs and just take my arrow, and we're going to just move them. So like this right here in front of her, on her forehead, we can just kind of slip under the hat. So some of this is going to be pretty easy. Some is going to be more challenging because the thicker the hair, the more layers you're going to have to move. And so right here, as I'm doing this, you can see I have a couple of layers, but it's not too bad. I can grab each individual layer, kind of move them. See, there was kind of 3 layers there, and we're just going to move them under her hat. And so to begin with, this isn't going to be too bad at all. And we're just going to spend some time moving her hair under her hat. So remember, Alt left mouse button is going to rotate. So I'm just going to rotate her. Alt right drags. And then I can get this hair as well. So just select some of it, pull it down. For this pose, I am just basically using the blue arrow to drag the hair. And that's because I have this selection selected rather than the world. So I can just kind of push all of her hair down. So already this is looking pretty good. The back of her head is going to be the most challenging. So I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. Let's rotate her, drag her into the middle. So you can see if we're only going to do a front pose, that might be adequate, what I just did. But as we rotate her around, you're going to see, look at all this hair that is outside of the hat. So if you want to do multiple poses, you're just going to have to continue selecting hair and dropping it below the hat. So my suggestion would be is decide what you want to do for your posing first. If you are only going to do a certain view, front view, side view, something like that, you may not have to move all of her hair, because as you can see, as I'm getting to the back of her hair, we're getting a lot more layering. And the layering is going to take more and more time for us to do this. I tend to be kind of a perfectionist, so if I start something like this, I'll probably want to do the entire hair just so I can pose it however I want to, and I don't have to go back and try and make new morphs. I can just do it all at once. So it's up to you, but I think it's kind of nice to just do the whole thing, and then we could put her in a variety of poses without having to worry about having to come back into Hexagon and do this again. Also, you may notice I'm just selecting small amounts of the hair. I'm not trying to select like a huge chunk. Like I'm not going to come in and do something like this where I select a huge bunch. And the reason for that is, her head is round and we want to keep this looking natural. So I'm just going to select a little bit of the hair on the same plane to drag in. And that takes a little bit more time, but I think it's worth it if we're just patient. Here you can see we have a lot more hair layering. So this is taking more time, but we're starting to expose more and more of that hat, which is really our ultimate goal. All right, so I'm going to keep rotating around. I'll speed up our video here so you can see that I'm going around and doing this, but I'll get back to you in just a minute. Something else that is important is don't move the hair too much, because you don't want it to start poking through the other side of her head. So I'm just trying to take this hair and move it under the hat and not really push it way out like this, right? So I'm just going underneath. And that is going to help us keep a good pose if we reposition her. Now, if we move the hat on her head, you're going to have to redo this. But if we keep the same position of our hat, this morph that we're creating should do the trick. Keep her hair underneath that hat. So just keep that in mind also. Okay, so you can see I've taken a few minutes and I've just changed the position of her hair as much as I can. And we're starting to get nothing but her hat, which is exactly what I want. I have a little more to do on her right side here, and then we're going to be ready to move her back into Daz Studio. Another thing that's cool is Hexagon is going to select some hair even when we don't see it. So see, I can I can select hair like this, even though we're not seeing the hair. It can still recognize that there's hair there and select it so we can move it if we need to. See, now we've got it. This looks pretty good. So let's put her back in her front view here. I'm going to kind of move her. Now I am very pleased with that. That looks really good. Okay, so once we have the morph done, we should know what to do next. You just take her back into Daz Studio. I'm going to go File, Send to Daz Studio. Now I look down here, my little Daz icon is flashing, which means that she was successfully moved. We've got this tab. I'm going to name this, instead of hex morph, of course, let's name it by clicking on the name. Let's name it hat morph. And don't forget, with the reverse deformation, you have to right click that and hit yes, hit accept, hit OK. Now, if I go to my character, I'm going to go find her hair, which is the Ladina hair right here. And now we have a morph, the hat morph, and I can move that. Now, see, it's moving her hair too. Like, I moved her hair around. So we're going to have to keep that in mind. But now she has no hair poking through the hat. Now I'm going to have to do this same thing with Nulpy. So what I always do is I'm going to X out of Hexagon so that I have just a fresh Hexagon. I never save, just hit no. It's going to get rid of Hexagon. Now I can double click on Nulpy and we can move Nulpy into Hexagon. And we're going to do the same thing with Nulpy's hair. Now, like I said, let's see the detail of Nulpy's hair because it is a different hair prop. It is the Alice hair for Genesis 8. So we are going to need to perhaps do a little more editing on it. It just depends on if this hair has more detail. So let's kind of get her into position. I'm going to rotate her around to the front, kind of how we started with Milica. Now this hair has more strands. It is more detailed, so this is going to take us some more time. But again, I'm going to select the Alice hair. Let's do soft selection again. I'm going to come up here to the face, hit the face block, and then my selection arrow, the translate manipulator. I have it set to selection, and we're going to have to do the same thing. But you can see we've got more work to do with Nulpy's hair. This hair product is a lot more detailed. And I wanted to show you that, just to show you that we can do the same thing. It's just going to take us longer. You know, unfortunately, hair products, they vary a lot. And so some are very simple and they don't eat up a lot of memory and they don't freeze your computer, that kind of thing. But others, well, the better they look, the more polygons they have. The more polygons they have, the more memory they eat up. And of course, if we do something like this, we're going to get a lot more work to create a morph. And that's just how it is. But let's work on Nulpy, and then we're going to move her back into Daz Studio, and we'll get the picture set up and ready to go. We'll see what this all looks like. I want to show you this, which is really interesting about this hair. It is so detailed. I can select individual strands that are poking through. See, like I can take this, select these individual strands, and I can move them below the hat. So just another, I mean, this really shows you the detail of this hair. Lots and lots of polygons in this hair. I have to admit, I have struggled with hair and posing hair. I try and keep it to a minimum. And like I said, there's no real easy answer to hair. I think Hexagon is a great way to create some new hair morphs. One of the things I've always struggled with is if your character is laying on their side or they're hanging upside down, how do you move their hair? Because I've always found it challenging to like a picture where someone, let's say, is hanging upside down, but their hair is still in the perfect position, which I understand. I mean, that's hard to do in Daz Studio to move hair, and you may not want to take all this time, but if you do, you're going to have a much better result with your rendering. And so I'll make another video on how I would do this same kind of technique in Hexagon, but do it for like Milica hanging upside down, for example. Or she is laying down on her side and we want to create a realistic hair pose. All right, now here on the back of Nulpy is just some crazy layering. So you can see this is where I might just say, okay, I'm only going to get a front view picture. Why am I going to take all this time to make the morph into something that I'll probably never have, which is the back of Nulpy's head? But we're going to keep working on it here just to see if we can get it looking as good as Milica. Okay, everyone, so I got the front done pretty well. It looks pretty good. The back is still an issue. I mean, this hair, maybe I should have tried a more basic hair. The back is just giving me trouble. One of the things that you just got to be careful of is trying to do too much at once, and you just got to be patient. But I am about to call this good. I still don't have the back completed. If we wanted to be really thorough with this, we'd have to keep working on her, but I think I'm pretty pleased because she is in a position like this with my camera. And so maybe zoom in and just take care of a few last strands, and then I think we're good to go. At any rate, this is going to be 100% better than what I started with. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to send this back to Daz Studio. My Daz icon's blinking. That's good. All right, let's name this one Hat Morph. This is going to go to a different set of hair. Don't forget to right-click on reverse deformations, hit yes, hit accept. Okay. And now when I click on Nulpy, I'm going to find her hair, and we should be able to move that hair. And hopefully we'll see it kind of disappear from those areas that were a tricky part. Here is our hat morph. Oh, look at that. That looks way better. I hope this helped you out a lot. Hair is just one of those things that is hard to do. I will make another hair video, show you how I do things with different poses and hair. Hexagon can do some really cool things. You know, don't forget another thing you could do too is if you have a little bit of hair poking through after your morph, you can always take your hat and enlarge it just a little bit so that it looks natural but is covering some of that hair. So we're going to call this good. I'm going to set this up. We're going to save it and then do some renders for our thumbnail and into the video. So I hope your holidays are going well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and shoot me a comment or two. Let me know how I'm doing. And if you have any suggestions, comments, and tips, always looking for tips. This is a community, don't forget. Many of you still haven't subscribed. You watch my videos, but you don't subscribe. You can help my little channel out by subscribing and hitting that like button, and I really appreciate it. I will see you next time. Happy rendering.